Okay, Shalom Hamas means hello and goodbye. So you know that when we meet Hebrew speakers, modern Hebrew speakers, we use the word shalom in both senses, in the sense of hello, as well as in the sense of goodbye. As a matter of fact, in biblical Hebrew, there are other senses for these words as well. And a very interesting one is a meaning of this word that was not explicitly said by President Trump, and probably is not aware of that. And most people are unaware of that meaning of the word shalom. But the root shin, lamed, and mem actually has to do with surrendering as well. And the meaning of this root in the Semitic languages, in Hebrew as well as in Arabic, may also mean surrender, submit. Okay, so the root shin lamed mem here in Arabic, an S sound instead of a shin is very common, guys. Very common. We have an S instead of a shin in other languages as well. In the different inheritance of Hebrew and Arabic from the Proto-Semitic, we can systematically see that when Hebrew has the shin, Arabic tends to have an S sound. Okay? And Arabic does have a sh sound as well. But historically, in many cases where Hebrew has the sh, the Arabic has the s. And one example, you can see like the number, you might have heard about the khamsa. Do you know what a khamsa is, guys? Have you ever seen a hand like shaped talisman?
Yes.
This is called khamsa. Khamsa. What is khamsa? Khamsa is the 5 fingers of the palm of the hand. Does it remind you of any biblical Hebrew number? Right? We have
Kamishi.
Hamishi, right? 5th, or Hamisha would be 5. So Khamsa in Arabic would be the 5 fingers, hence the palm of the hand, hence that uh, object that is supposed to be of blessing. Okay, traditionally among both Muslims and Jews who came from Muslim societies. So very common, the khamsa. And that is just an example for the sh sound and the s sound being equivalent in Hebrew and Arabic. Same goes for the word shalom, okay? In Arabic, salam, okay? So the Arabic root, sa, l, m, and you can actually see the letters here in Arabic, s, which looks like a shin a little bit if you have good like imagination. They both are. I'll use my pen to show you the slight similarities between these two. Think of something like a W, because the origin of the W is indeed the shin, the Proto-Semitic shin, the Hebrew shin. And both the Hebrew shin looks a little bit like a W, and the Arabic s looks a little bit like a W. Can you see that similarity in both letters? Very good. So I remember maybe it was in the 90s or the 80s where it was a big trend with those pictures. You had to kind of get out of focus to see what's hiding in the picture. So to see these similarities, you sometimes have to go to that zone of obscurity. So yeah, that's the shin and the s. Okay, let's see the next one, the lamed, and the equivalent for that in Arabic. You have this line going upwards, which in some cases, if you look, for instance, in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay, the lamed looks more like this. So the line going upwards is characteristic of the lamed and the equivalent of that in the Arabic. And finally, you can see the mem, which looks like modern Hebrew final mem, for those of you who studied modern Hebrew. So you can see even the similarities here in the letters. I'm not saying it's always like that. It is not always like that. In this case, you can also see that somewhat similarity between the letters. Anyway, the root of shalom or salam is the same root for Islam, and a Muslim who is who submits, the one who submits before God. You can see the mem at the beginning, mu sound. The u in the Semitic language is very common, indicating passivity. So the one who is surrendered, or the one who submits before God. Just so you see that I'm not, taking advantage of lack of background knowledge. You can see I brought the Google Translate for surrender and submission. Yastaslam or istislam. You can see the s, the l, and the m. The root of surrender and submission in Arabic is the same root for shalom. And I should say it's not limited only to Arabic. This is something that we also find in biblical Hebrew. Okay? Where the best example for this kind of use of this root is in the book of Deuteronomy, okay, in the laws concerning warfare. And that makes perfect sense that you would have a sense of word for surrendering or submitting, okay, in the context of the law, the rules of engagement, if you will. And the Torah says, Ki tikra vel'ir lehillachem alea vekarata elea leshalom. When you approach a city to fight against it, you should call upon it for peace. You are more than welcome to open your Bibles, whichever English Bible you have. I'm sure the Bible is not far from anyone, and if you don't have the Bible next to you, you can Google it up, and you'll find that most translations would go for offer it peace, because indeed the word shalom, again, it is used for other purposes as well, but it is very commonly translated in as peace, and so it is correct in most of the places, or in many of these places. Okay, so you should call upon it for peace, and indeed, the Greek translation of the Septuagint, which in a sense paved the way for many of the non-Semitic translations down the road, uses the Greek equivalent for peace. Anyone remembers what's Greek for peace? Or it's all Greek to you guys?
Irene.
Yeah, very good. So when you meet Irene next time, okay, or Ireneus, or all kinds of these names, that is related to peace. And indeed, the translation in the Greek for shalom here is related to the Greek eirene, okay, peace. Okay, so when you approach a city, maybe peace. If you have another translation, guys, that says surrender, that's wonderful. But most translations have it with peace. But the correct context dictates surrendering. How do I know that? Not just because it's war. You can have war and peace, right? It's a big book. If you're gonna read the whole book, right? Milchama v'shalom, war and peace. Vaina'i mir, I would guess that's the Russian words for war and peace. But really, Yes, Ron.
Hey, with the confusion with the Arabic, is that an example of what linguistics would call a false cognate? Words that sound the same but
No, no, no,
actually have
no,
different
no.
meanings.
No, it's actually a very nice example for a good cognate because it,
Mm,
it does mean surrendering in Hebrew as well. In this
I
example
see.
from Deuteronomy 20:10.
Hmm.
Okay, how do I know that in this context it means surrendering? Because I don't only have Deuteronomy 20 verse 10. When we read the following verse, guys, and I'm sure you've opened it with in your Bibles, so you can read the next verse as well. Anyone wants to read the English for the next verse, verse 11? I don't have it on screen, but I'm sure anyone wants to read it. Ron, do you want to read it? Your microphone is open, and I love your radiophonic voice.
We're reading this, what you have on the
If,
screen here.
No,
if
no,
it
no.
agrees,
Verse 11. Verse 11.
I
Ron.
have it. If it
Okay.
agrees to make peace with you and opens to you, then all the people who are found in it shall become your forced labor and shall serve you. That's Deuteronomy 20:11.
Very good. Thank you very much, Gene. So, guys, you've heard what happens to that city that opens. It's not a peace, right? If that city surrenders, then the whole people becomes your forced labor and should be subservient to you. So it's not you're not calling it for a peace agreement. You're calling it to surrender. And if they do indeed surrender and open, they become subservient. They become forced labor. They have to pay tribute. That's not peace, right? That's submission. So the best translation for the root shalom in Deuteronomy 20:10 and 11 has to do with submission, exactly as the root salam in Islam. By the way, sometimes people say Islam is the religion of peace, right? It even says in the name. You might have heard that. It's a point that sometimes apologists for Islam do because they can. But really, it means submission. No, I'm not saying that one should not submit before God. Judaism puts the stress in different places. We are called the people that strive with God, Israel, the people that fight with God. So the part of submitting to God, while important, is not the one part that we stress, but we struggle with God. We also submit to God, right? Abram, God told him to do something, so Abram said, I'm going to do it. But Abram also was the one who was fighting with God, haggling him, taking him down all the way from 50 to 10 when God wanted to destroy Sodom. Okay, and our forefather Yaakov was named Israel because he fought with God, okay, with a divine creature. So struggling with God and submitting to God in Judaism is something that is kind of intrinsic to the core ideas of struggling with reality and struggling with what's around us and submitting. So it's not just submitting. In any case, when Trump says Shalom Hamas, I do hope that at the end of the way it would lead to the submission of Hamas, to the surrender of Hamas, as this route also may encapsulate. So it was kind of a, by the way, it wasn't something that I was planning to talk about today, but the opportunity presented itself, and I could not avoid talking about the biblical Hebrew in such an important post, something that many people have taken notice, and I think it's important to understand the biblical meaning as well. So let's hope they'll submit, and it will lead to peace in the sense of shalom as well. And that's a little bit about what's going on, the situation, and the word shalom. John, did you want to say something?
No, you just never walk away with a confrontation with God unwounded. I just know that this is it sounds like a dream. Anyone would want it, and I just don't know how realistic. I'm at a loss.
I know, and it's not easy to be an Israelite.
Yeah.
Where do we draw the line between doing what God says and struggling with God? That's
Yeah.
I totally agree. I'm just saying that I think that being monotheistic, by the way, is being able to live with those tensions.
Right.
Okay, not succumbing to one ideal, but holding many ideas and balancing them. Because I don't worship the God of war, I don't worship the God of beauty, I don't worship the God of peace, I don't worship the God of wisdom, I don't worship the God of we worship the one God that includes all of these ideas.